The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife, and even at 7, she could feel it. Nathan finally looked at me, his gray eyes steady and unreadable. "I'm not criticizing you, Evadne. I'm just trying to understand why your schedule has been so unpredictable lately." "Unpredictable?" I laughed, but it came out sharper than I intended. "I work hard, Nathan. I work really hard to contribute to this family, and instead of being supportive, you're sitting there timing my every move like some kind of detective." "That's not what I'm doing." "Isn't it?" I set my phone down with more force than necessary. "When was the last time you asked me how my day went? When was the last time you showed any interest in my life beyond tracking my hours like I'm some employee you don't trust?" Nathan's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained calm. "I ask you about your day every day, Evadne. You usually say fine and change the subject." I felt heat rising in my cheeks. He wasn't wrong, but that wasn't the point. The point was that he was making me feel guilty for working late, for having a life outside of this house, outside of him. "Maybe I don't feel like talking because I'm tired," I said. "Maybe I'm tired of feeling like I have to justify every minute of my day to you." Maya pushed her plate away and stood up. "Can I go watch TV?" "Of course, sweetheart," I said, my voice immediately softening. She hurried out of the kitchen, and I felt a pang of guilt. We shouldn't be having this conversation in front of her. Nathan waited until he heard the TV turn on in the living room before speaking again. "I'm not trying to control you, Evadne. I'm trying to understand what's happening with us." "What's happening with us is that you've become paranoid and suspicious," I said, picking up my phone again. "It's not attractive, Nathan. It's actually pretty creepy." His face went very still. "Creepy?" "Yes, creepy. Following my every move, questioning my work schedule, acting like I'm some kind of criminal. It's suffocating." I could see him processing this, and for a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered how he'd been lately. Distant, cold, always watching, always making me feel like I was doing something wrong just by existing. "I found something," he said quietly. My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my expression neutral. "Found what?" He pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. It was our banking app, showing recent transactions. There, highlighted in yellow, was a charge from Romano's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. The timestamp showed last Tuesday at 8:47 p.m. "You said you were working late that night," Nathan said, "until 10:30, but this shows you were at Romano's." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Liam and I had gone there after work, just as friends, just to decompress from a stressful day. Nothing inappropriate had happened. We talked, laughed, shared a bottle of wine. It was innocent. "I grabbed dinner after work," I said. "Is that a crime now?" "At Romano's? Alone?" "What's wrong with Romano's?" "It's expensive. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "It's not the kind of place you go to grab a quick dinner alone." I could feel my face getting hot. "So now you're policing where I eat? I work hard, Nathan. I deserve to treat myself occasionally." "You were there for 2 hours." The way he said it, like he'd been studying the transaction, analyzing it, made me feel sick. "You've been tracking my spending?" "I check our accounts regularly. We both do." "No, this is different. This is you looking for evidence of what exactly? What do you think I'm doing, Nathan?" He was quiet for a long moment, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted to believe me, wanted to trust me, but there was doubt there too, and it was growing. "I don't know what to think," he said finally. "Your schedule has changed, you're distant, you're always on your phone, and now there are charges for expensive restaurants on nights when you said you were working late." "I am working late, and sometimes after working late, I need to eat. Is that so hard to understand?" "Who were you with?" The question hung in the air between us. I could lie, tell him I was alone, but something in his expression told me he already knew that wasn't true. "A coworker," I said. "Liam, from the supply company. We were discussing the Henderson account over dinner." "Liam Forster?" The fact that he knew Liam's last name sent a chill down my spine. Yes, he's been helping us with the inventory management system. It's complicated work, Nathan. Sometimes these discussions run long. Nathan nodded slowly, but I could see he wasn't satisfied. Your phone, he said. What about it? You never put it down anymore. You take it to the bathroom, you sleep with it under your pillow. Last week, I saw you texting at 2 in the morning. I have insomnia sometimes. I read articles, check social media. It's not a big deal. Can I see it? The request hit me like a physical blow. Excuse me? Your phone. If it's just work stuff and insomnia reading, can I see it? I clutched my phone tighter, feeling trapped. That's a huge violation of privacy, Nathan. I can't believe you're asking me that. We're married. We don't have secrets. Everyone has a right to privacy, even in marriage. The fact that you think you're entitled to go through my personal communications is exactly the problem I'm talking about. You're being controlling. Nathan's face went pale, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. He'd always been sensitive about being called controlling. His father had been a controlling man, and Nathan had worked hard not to be like him. I'm not trying to control you, he said quietly. I'm trying to save our marriage. By violating my privacy, by tracking my spending and timing my work schedule, that's not saving our marriage, Nathan. That's destroying it. I stood up, grabbing my purse and keys. I'm going to be late for work. Evadne, wait. But I was already heading for the door. I needed to get out of there, needed space to think. As I pulled out of our driveway, I saw Nathan standing in the kitchen window, watching me go. My phone buzzed with a text from Liam. Good morning, beautiful. Thinking about you. I smiled despite the knot in my stomach. At least someone appreciated me. Sunday brunch at the Willow had been a family tradition for 3 years, ever since Maya started asking why we never saw Grandma Denise and Grandpa Eric together with Grandma Harriet and Aunt Leela. Nathan and I had agreed that neutral ground might help keep the peace between our mothers, who had never quite seen eye to eye. The cafe was busy, filled with the usual Sunday crowd of families and couples enjoying their weekend. Our table was in the back corner, a large round table that could accommodate all of us. Nathan sat to my right, Maya between us coloring on her kids' menu. Across from me sat my mother, Harriet, her silver hair perfectly styled as always. Next to her was my younger sister, Leela, who was scrolling through her phone while we waited for Nathan's family to arrive. There they are, Nathan said, standing as his mother Denise and brother Eric approached our table. Denise Morrow was a formidable woman at 60, tall, sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that commanded attention. She'd never quite warmed to me, though she was always polite. Eric, Nathan's older brother, was more easygoing, but fiercely loyal to Nathan. Sorry we're late, Denise said, settling into her chair. Traffic was terrible coming from the north side. No problem at all, my mother replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We just ordered coffee. The server came by to take drink orders, and we all studied our menus in the kind of comfortable silence that comes with familiar routines. But I could feel the tension from my conversation with Nathan yesterday morning still hanging between us. So, Evadne, Eric said, setting down his menu, Nathan tells me you've been working a lot of overtime lately. That must be exhausting. I looked up, immediately on guard. Had Nathan been talking to his brother about our problems? It's busy season, I said carefully, but I don't mind. I actually enjoy the challenge. What kind of projects are keeping you so late? Denise asked. Her tone was conversational, but there was something sharp in her eyes. Inventory management, mostly. We're implementing a new system, and it requires a lot of coordination with our vendors. I took a sip of my coffee, trying to appear relaxed. That's interesting, Leela said, looking up from her phone. I thought you said it was quarterly reports. My stomach dropped. It's both. The reports and the inventory system are connected. Nathan was very quiet beside me, cutting Maya's pancakes into small pieces with methodical precision. Romano's has excellent food, Denise said suddenly. Eric took me there for my birthday last year. Beautiful atmosphere, very romantic. The comment hit like a slap. I felt my face burn as I realized Nathan had told his family about the restaurant charge. I wouldn't know about romantic, I said, forcing a laugh. I was there for a business dinner. Business dinner? My mother looked confused. You didn't mention any business dinners. It wasn't a big deal, Mom. Just discussing some vendor contracts over dinner. At Romano's? Eric raised an eyebrow. That's pretty fancy for a business dinner. Most people do that stuff at Applebee's or something. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, and the familiar feeling of being cornered made my chest tight. Is there something wrong with having nice business dinners? I work hard. I think I deserve better than Applebee's. Of course you do, honey, my mother said quickly. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself. Treating herself? Denise's voice was cool. I thought it was a business dinner. It was both, I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. Maya looked up from her coloring, sensing the tension. Nathan finally spoke. Who did you have dinner with, Evadne? The question was quiet, but it cut through the table conversation like a knife. Everyone went silent. Even Maya stopped coloring. A coworker, I said. Liam Forster from our supply company. We were discussing the Henderson account. Until almost 11 at night? Nathan's voice was still quiet, but there was an edge there now. It's complicated work, Nathan. Not everyone can understand the intricacies of supply chain management. I saw Eric and Denise exchange a look. My mother was frowning, clearly confused by the tension. What's going on here? Leela asked. Why does everyone seem so weird about Evadne having a business dinner? Because it wasn't just one dinner, Nathan said. His voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling slightly. And because she's been lying about her work schedule for weeks. Nathan, I warned. Lying how? Denise leaned forward, her eyes sharp. She's been coming home late, claiming to work overtime, but her timesheets don't match her schedule. She's been secretive about her phone, defensive when I ask simple questions about her day. Stop, I said, my voice rising. Stop doing this here in front of everyone. Doing what? Asking my wife to be honest with me? You're embarrassing me in front of our families because you're paranoid and insecure, I said. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Nathan. You follow me around like some kind of detective, tracking my spending, timing my work schedule. It's creepy. Creepy? My mother looked shocked. Nathan's just concerned about you, honey. No, Mom. He's being controlling. He wants to go through my phone. He questions every minute of my day. He makes me feel like a criminal in my own home. Maybe he has reason to be concerned, Denise said quietly. I turned to stare at her. Excuse me? If your story keeps changing, if you're being secretive, maybe Nathan has good reason to ask questions. My story isn't changing. You people are just looking for problems where none exist. You people? Eric's voice was dangerous now. I mean, I started, but Nathan cut me off. She means my family, he said. She thinks we're all ganging up on her. Because you are. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I work late a few times, have a business dinner, and suddenly I'm on trial. This is insane. Maya started crying. The sound cut through everything else, and I immediately felt horrible. I sat back down and reached for her, but she leaned away from me toward Nathan. It's okay, baby, Nathan said softly, pulling Maya closer. Everything's okay. No, it's not okay, I said, my voice breaking. Nothing about this is okay. I'm being attacked by my own family for working hard and trying to contribute to our household. Evadne, Leela said gently, maybe you could just explain. Explain what? Why I had dinner with a coworker? Why I work late sometimes? Why I don't want my husband going through my personal phone like I'm some kind of teenager? Because you're acting like you have something to hide, Denise said bluntly. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I could feel tears starting, and I hated myself for it. I wasn't the villain here. I was the one being cornered, attacked, made to feel guilty for living my life. I don't have anything to hide, I said quietly. I have a right to privacy. I have a right to work late without being interrogated. I have a right to have dinner with coworkers without being treated like a cheater. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Cheater. No one had said it directly, but it had been hanging over the conversation like a storm cloud. No one called you a cheater, Eric said carefully. Didn't you? I looked around the table. Isn't that what this is all about? You all think I'm having an affair because I work late and had dinner with a male coworker? Are you? Denise asked. The question was like a physical blow. How dare you ask me that? It's a simple question, Evadne, Nathan said quietly. Are you having an affair? I stared at him, feeling like the world was tilting sideways. I can't believe you just asked me that. In front of everyone. In front of Maya? Just answer the question. No, I said, standing up again. I'm not answering anything. I'm done with this interrogation. I'm done being made to feel guilty for having a job and a life outside of this family. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, ignoring the stares from other diners. Behind me, I could hear Nathan trying to calm Maya down, could hear my mother calling my name. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with shaking hands and pulled out my phone. I needed to talk to someone who understood me, someone who didn't make me feel like a criminal. I texted Liam, "Can we talk? Family drama. Need a friend." His response came quickly. "Of course. Want to meet somewhere?" I looked back at the Willow, where my family was probably dissecting every word I'd said, probably agreeing that I was being defensive and suspicious. "Yes," I typed back, "somewhere far from here." As I drove away, I told myself I wasn't running from the truth. I was running from their twisted version of it. The office building was mostly empty by 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, just the way I preferred it lately. I want to text a friend without hiding my phone, like I'm doing something wrong. You're not doing anything wrong, aren't I? I looked at our joined hands. I'm sitting here, after hours, talking to another man about my marriage problems. I'm hiding our friendship from my husband. I'm lying about working late when really I'm just avoiding going home. You're protecting yourself, Liam said firmly. There's nothing wrong with having a friend who supports you. Nathan would say there's something wrong with it. Nathan doesn't get to control who you're friends with. The certainty in his voice was like a balm. He wants me to block your number. Liam's hand stilled on mine. What? He hasn't said it directly, but I can see it coming. He's building up to demanding that I cut off all contact with you. Would you? The question hung between us. I looked into his green eyes, thinking about what my life would look like without these conversations, without someone who understood me, without the one bright spot in my increasingly dark days. No, I said quietly, I won't let him isolate me from my friends. Good, Liam said, but there was something in his expression that made me nervous, because I'd hate to lose you. The way he said it sent a flutter through my chest. Liam, I know it's complicated, he said quickly. I know you're married, I know the situation is messy, but I care about you, Evadne, more than I probably should. I should have pulled my hand away. I should have said something about boundaries, about keeping our friendship appropriate. Instead, I found myself leaning closer. I care about you too, I whispered. Your husband doesn't deserve you, Liam said, his voice low. My timesheets? If you're working all this overtime, it should be documented. Show me the timesheets. I could feel sweat beading on my forehead. I don't have to prove anything to you, Nathan. The fact that you're demanding to see my work records is exactly the problem I've been talking about. The problem you've been talking about? Nathan repeated slowly. You mean the problem where I'm being controlling and paranoid? Yes. Nathan picked up his phone and unlocked it. I have something else to show you. My heart started pounding. Nathan, not in front of Maya. Maya, sweetheart, why don't you go watch TV while Mommy and Daddy finish talking? But I'm not done eating. Take your plate with you. It's okay, just this once. Maya looked confused but obediently picked up her plate and headed to the living room. As soon as she was out of earshot, Nathan turned his phone screen toward me. It was a screenshot of text messages. My text messages. With Liam. Care to explain these? Nathan's voice was deadly quiet. I stared at the screen, seeing my own words reflected back at me. Can't wait to see you tonight. Nathan's working late. We'll have plenty of time. You make me feel alive again. How did you... I started, then stopped. You went through my phone? You left it on the counter this morning when you went to shower. It buzzed with a message from Liam, and I saw enough to know I needed to see more. You had no right. I had no right? Nathan's voice rose slightly, then he caught himself and lowered it again. I had no right to look at my wife's phone when she's been lying to me for weeks? I haven't been lying. Henderson account finished 2 weeks ago, Evadne. 2 weeks ago. You made me feel like a prisoner in my own home. So it's my fault? Yes, it's your fault. If you had trusted me, if you had treated me like a partner instead of a suspect, none of this would have happened. Nathan stared at me for a long moment. None of this would have happened, he repeated. So you admit something happened. I realized my mistake too late. That's not what I meant. You just blamed me for your affair, Evadne. You just told me that my behavior forced you to cheat on me. I'm not cheating. Emotional affairs are still affairs. Nathan's voice was flat now, emotionless. And based on these messages, it's heading toward physical pretty quickly. I felt tears starting, but they were tears of frustration, not remorse. You don't understand what it's like, Nathan. You don't understand what it's like to feel suffocated, to feel like you can't breathe in your own home. So instead of talking to me about it, instead of trying to work on our marriage, you decided to find comfort in another man. He listens to me. He understands me. He doesn't make me feel guilty for having feelings. And I do? Yes, you do. You make me feel guilty for everything, for working late, for having dinner with coworkers, for wanting privacy. You've turned our marriage into an interrogation. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, staring down at his phone. When he looked up, his face was different, harder. I want you to block his number, he said. What? Block Liam's number. Delete it from your phone. End whatever this is. No! The word came out before I could stop it. Nathan's face went very still. No, I won't let you isolate me from my friends. I won't let you control who I can and can't talk to. He's not your friend, Evadne. Friends don't send messages like these to married women. You don't get to decide who my friends are. I'm your husband. You're my husband, not my owner. We stared at each other across the table, and I could see something breaking in Nathan's eyes, something final. If you don't end this, he said quietly, I will. What's that supposed to mean? Instead of answering, Nathan stood up and started clearing the dinner dishes. I think you should call your sister, he said. Ask her if you can stay there tonight. What? Why? Because I need some space to think, and I need to know that you're not going to sneak out to see him once Maya's asleep. The accusation hit like a slap. I would never. Wouldn't you? Nathan looked at me with eyes that seemed to see right through me. Because honestly, Evadne, I don't know what you would or wouldn't do anymore. As he walked out of the kitchen, I heard him say one more thing. I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow.